What's going on, everybody? YL from rebelears.com here again with another deep dive. I want to explain this Yamaha setup to you all. As you know, I work on Yamahas a lot. This is my Yamaha TF 1608. We got 16 inputs that we can use, 8 outputs. Of course, I am connecting this with this Ethernet reel. All right, so you can see Dante going into by Ethernet. All right, so really quickly before I show you all my console setup, as you can see, got 2 tabletop mics and a podium mic, and also a presentation laptop with a DI box. So that DI would be for audio. It plugs right into the headphone jack, and if they have videos or any kind of audio coming from their presentations, I can pick that up from the console. Now, as you can see right here, these are my speakers. So 7 and 8 on a lot of consoles and on some of these stage boxes, they default to your left and right. So I always plug my mains into whatever outputs default to left and right, so I can use my left and right fader on my console. Now, in channel 5 and 6, output 5 and 6, these are my delays. So as you can see, I have a delay here and a delay there, just to basically hit the back of the room. This is a smaller room setup. All right, so this first channel here is going to my podium mic up top. So anything that's near the stage, all my outputs are gonna go into this box here. This number 8, as you can see, I have these channels marked off, and I'll show you why later. This channel number 8 is going into that computer DI for computer audio. 11 and 12 are going for these 2 tabletop mics here for the panel. The reason they're in 11 and 12 because we added those at the end. We didn't know that we were going to use those, so I just had to find open channels after I had already did my routing and all of that. All right, so let's walk the floor real quick. As you can see, cables taped nice and neat. Cable management is important. Speaker placement is important. So I got speakers at the edge. Ideally, I like my speakers kind of closer to the stage to shoot straight out. But you know, sometimes you gotta do things a little unorthodox. These speakers, JBLs, they throw pretty well. As you can see, they're angled in towards the crowd here. Like I said, ideally, I like to put my mains closer here so they shoot straight on instead of angled. My delays here, as you can see, cables taped nice and neat. Delays are shooting at an angle as well to touch the back of the room. I like these last 4 rows or so. The bigger the PA, the less you have to crank your microphones. All right, so pays to have 4 speakers. If I only had 2 speakers in this room, I would have to crank the gain on those mics or crank the volume on my speakers pretty high so it can reach the back of the room. All right, then you have feedback problems. So we'll go over to this console. We got 6 wireless mics. So that's what those 6 channels were taped up on the TO, because I have 6 wireless that are actually going into the board. So channel 1 was taken up by that podium mic on the TO. 2 through 7 here at the top are all wireless mics. 8 was my DI up there. 9 and 10 are 2 computers back here. We had a Zoom. So we had a Zoom coming out of this interface here, and then there's also another computer there that we have presentations on for the back of house or front of house. So really quickly, show y'all my input level. Really simple. Like I said, channel 1 is the podium. These are my 6 wireless This is my podium computer, PC. This is playback, which is one of the computers over there. This is my Zoom computer. These are my 2 panel mics. Remember I said I added those a little bit later on, so I had to throw those on channel 11 and 12. And then of course I always bring my little laplet for my playback and just music, stuff like that. So these are my 12 inputs. Not a lot of inputs, or 14 inputs, I'm sorry. Not a lot. Then in my output channel, I always send all of my wireless mics and my microphones to a mic group. And I have my EQ there, kind of shaping those microphones. And then of course I have my GEQ, as you can see, kind of digging out on my GEQ, digging out some lows, digging out some mids, digging out a little bit of highs. So those are my highs that I tend to dig out. This is how I ring out my room and shape the tone of my microphones. All right, this is my output 2. So this was actually going to a stream, going to a Zoom. I had to do a mix minus for that, meaning the guy who called in from the computer, he wanted to hear all of the microphones. He wanted to hear everybody. He didn't want to hear himself, but everybody else had to hear and see him as well. We have a record deck. We're recording every single show. Make it nice and simple. We skip aux 4. There's nothing coming out of 4. And then 5 and 6 are my delays, which are coming from the TO back there. And then, like I said, 7 and 8 really just kind of defaults to my stereo, to my left and my right. All right, so these are my aux. I can do sends on fader. I can hit my aux 1 mics, and it'll show me that all of my mics are sending to that one aux, right? So that's my mic group, aux 1. All of my mics are sending to that. For my stream, for the Zoom, as you can see, I'm sending all of the mics. I'm sending the playback computers, but I'm not sending the Zoom feed to the Zoom because they don't want to hear themselves. That's when you get echo and all kind of craziness. My record deck is getting every single thing. He got the Zoom, he got all of the microphones, all of the computers, including the music that I'm playing. My delays, they're on auxes, so you have to send whatever you want to come through these speakers here. All right, so these delay speakers, I have to send everything to them. So every input, every sound is coming out of those speakers. Delay right as well, same thing. All right, so those are inputs and outputs. Now, I want to show you all how I do my custom fader bank, right? So if you can see, it's too much when I have to, let me get out of these, all right? So when I have to flip back and forth through these different fader banks, sometimes, like I said, you mixing on the fly, you're doing live mixing, it's all about workflow. You gotta be able to move fast if something goes wrong or something's not loud enough and you gotta hurry up and get to a fader or to a button, then you don't need to be trying to figure out where you're going, all right? So you hit the settings button. I'm on TF5. So I'm gonna hit my settings button here. Then I go to my custom fader bank. All right, so each channel on my, as you see, I got 32 channels on this console. Each channel I can actually turn into a custom channel. Right, so my custom fader bank, I like to put all of my inputs and outputs on one fader bank, so I don't have to keep touching all of these different buttons to get to my inputs and outputs. All right, so of course I keep all my microphones, all my inputs on first. So got my podium mic, got my wireless, I got my panel mics, and then I have my mic group. After that, I go all of my computers here. So 1 through 16 will be all inputs on that custom fader bank, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. Now I can do anything. If I wanted to make 14, I'll hit 14. If I wanted to make channel 14, you know, say if I had another input that I just added, we'll just say channel 21. See, I can put channel 21 on fader 14 or channel 14 on this custom fader bank. All right, I can put anything on there. Whatever I want to put on there, I can put on there, you know. Or I can have nothing on there, which I usually use that as a spacer. All right, so you see all of this 17 through 22 is all spacers. There's nothing on those channels. And then I bring in my record and my stream on 23 and 24. I skip all of these and I bring in my delays, my left and my right on 31 and 32. And this is my left and my right stereo. All right, so if I hold down input and the output, there's the custom fader. You got podium, wireless 1 through 6, my 2 panel mics, my mic group, all of my computers are here. I got my record feed and my stream feed for Zoom here. All right, and then I have my delays over here. Now the reason why I do it is all about workflow. I got all my mics right here grouped together going into this mic channel. So I want my mics and my mic aux side by side, because if I got to affect a microphone, it's easy. Turn them on, turn them all off. They're all going into this one mic group, so I want that accessible. Same thing with computers. I want all of them side by side as well. Just makes it easy for me to cut them on, cut them off, unmute, mute. Different outputs as far as stream, recording. If I had multiple streams, multiple records, I want them all together. You see, everything is color coordinated. It's all about workflow. And then these are my physical outputs. I want them all together. So I have delays and my physical main and right, left and right all together. Really easy. All right. So we'll select our stereo. This home button. I'll show you guys the graphic EQ. This is how we ring out microphones to kill feedback. All right, so you see we're getting a little signal on here. This is our RTA. So usually when you have feedback, these frequencies shoot up and you just go through whatever frequency it is and you dial it back. All right, so some of these frequencies that you see pretty low, like 315, 1K, 4K is pretty low, 12, 12.5. This is me EQing my main speakers. So this is basically taking those frequencies out of the speakers, out of the room itself, so those mics don't cause feedback on those different frequencies. All right, so I do that for my left, right. I also do that for my delays as well. So I'm pulling out some lows in the delays, pulling out some low mids. 800 is always an ugly frequency doing in live sound. 8K, dropping down some highs so we don't have any screeching going on. All right, so left and right delays are the same. They are linked together. They copy and paste type of deal with those. Then I go to my mic group. My mic group has a whole is a little bit more aggressive graphic EQ where I'm pulling out at. All right, so definitely pulling out some highs, 10K, 12K, 16s, a lot of sibilants there, a lot of S's and T's that'll kind of ruin the sound. So not only am I EQing the room by EQing my speakers, what kind of tones come out of the speakers, I'm also EQing the microphones as well, really aggressively for this particular room. And I have my mics pretty loud, podium mics, tabletop mics. People don't really project in those as much. Sometimes they don't speak directly into the mic, so you got to crank the gain on them so people can hear what they're saying, especially for record feeds. The higher you crank the gain, the more feedback you're going to get. So I had to go really aggressive on this graphic EQ for these microphones. Definitely pulling out some lows. You always want to pull out a lot of those lows and a lot of that mud that's in male vocals and different things like that. Like I said, 800 is always a horrible frequency for live sound. 1K, different things like that. We want the range to be decent, you know, between some mids and a little bit of high mids is where we want our shape going. So this is all subtractive EQ. It's all pulling out resonant frequencies, really aggressive on here for this graphic EQ for my microphone. Now, if you look at my podium mic, as you can see, I'm pushing positive 18 gain. That's just the trim. That has nothing to do with the fader. All right, and then my fader is at positive 5. As you can see, I'm really pushing that mic really hard. My wireless, on the other hand, are at positive 6. Faders are at 10. Like I said before, these podium mics, they're a little bit iffy. You know, they're a little tricky when you're trying to ring the room out, because you have to crank them loud enough for certain people that don't know how to speak into those mics. Wireless mics, handhelds, you know, they can hold these up to their mouth pretty easily, you know, and you'll get a good sound, a good signal coming out of these pretty easily. Podium mics are a little different. If they don't step all the way into the podium, they don't lean into the mic, they don't adjust the height of the mic for their mouths, because you got different heights of people that come up. You got different tones of voices, men, women. Some people project and they're really excited when they present. Other people are really quiet and, you know, they talk really low. Same thing with these panel mics. As you see, I'm pushing positive 20 on those, on both of my panel mics. And then you also see that they're at unity on the fader. So I'm pushing them really hard, which is why I'm going so aggressive on this mic group channel. All right, now this is just another button you can hit your different auxes, right? So if I select my stream, hit send from, this is just allowing me to see all of the inputs that I'm sending to the stream, right? Like I said before, I'm sending everything but the zoom himself. Everything is in post fader, because when I turn it down on the console, I want it to be turned down on the aux as well. I'm not doing pre-fader. Most of my auxes do not come pre-fader, because if I turn it down in the room, it'll still be playing on the zoom or on the stream, right? Same thing with delays. Delays are on the aux, right? So if I turn down a microphone in the room, it'll turn it down on the mains. But if it's not post fader, then it's still gonna come out same volume as these delays. Let me give you an example. So let's say on my delays, y'all already just heard the difference. I just put it in pre-fader mode, but look how low I am here, right? So let me turn this down. I'll just make a point real quick. All right, so if I put these in pre-fader mode, I can turn these up. When I turn it down, all the way down, you can still hear it. I will have to mute it just to get those out of there, right? Versus putting it in post, you don't hear anything. I can turn it up, and I can just pull my fader all the way down and it comes out. Usually you're gonna have your send at about unity, like I just had it, right? So if I cut on post again, if I put it on pre-fader again, now you look at the send is way up, but the fader is all the way down. This is where you can cause a lot of problems in what's going on with your mixes, especially when you got different outputs. You're sending different inputs to different places. All right, so when you're dealing with these different outputs, especially physical outputs, you want to make sure everything is in fader mode. That is on any console that you're working on. All right, so hope y'all enjoyed this video, man. Real deep dive on this simple setup. It can get complex. The more inputs you have, the more outputs you have. This room is really, you know, kind of horrible acoustically, as you can see all up in the ceiling. You know, it looks cool, but it's not really the best room acoustically. So it's important that you're able to tune your room. You can EQ your speakers, you can EQ your microphones. All of that is important. Knowing your console is important. Like I said, just making sure that you build your workflow is also important for live sale. Till next time, refuse to sound ordinary.